time now for County-Wide, a special presentation of Yavapai Broadcasting News. Join Paul David and Brad Miller as they talk with our community's leaders, newsmakers, and people in the know. You'll hear about the hot topics that affect all our lives here in Yavapai County. And now, here's today's County-Wide.
Well, good day. Welcome to another program. It is County-Wide. Brad Miller with you, and we're happy to welcome you to a studio today. First-time guest, Kindred is an RN and social services specialist with Kindred Transitional Care and Rehab. Many of us will know them best, perhaps, as Kachina Point in the village of Oak Creek. And we welcome Kid into our program today. Today is the first part of a two-part series, excuse me, that we're going to do with Kid. We're going to talk about some very important issues. Primarily, the gist of this will be discussing how to talk with your, say, senior parents or parents who are maybe approaching retirement age, particularly about some very important issues, including money, insurance, long-term care, what they want to do into their golden years, and kinds of things that I think too many of us perhaps have neglected or have put off or just haven't addressed in the appropriate ways. And Kid is going to help us with that. She brings a lot of experience. First, we say good morning to you.
Good morning.
Thanks for coming in. And we called last week, and this is kind of a topic that I've wanted to get into for some time, and we were trying to find the right guest. And through our roundabout ways, we started to throw out some feelers. Somebody said, I got just the person, and here you are. So we appreciate that. This is the kind of business that you've been in for some time, talking with families, talking with folks about some very important issues. Is that right? Tell me a little bit about your experience with these.
I've been working with this and with families for over 15 years. My background is in the hospital background with ICU trauma and hospice case management. All of those areas present an urgent need for somebody to be able to speak for the patient if they're not able to speak for themselves.
Right, right. And this, what you're doing today with Kindred or with Kachina Point, is kind of an extension of that.
It is such an extension. We're working with patients who've had surgery, who are elderly, dementia patients, patients that due to their illness are not able at the present time to make their own wishes known or their own choices.
Right.
We need a spokesperson from the family.
Right. And that can be very difficult.
Yes, especially the more family members there are when there's differences of opinions on things. We need somebody who's really aware of what their parents' wishes are and who can speak for their parents.
The impetus for this show, the way it all kind of started, the reason we called Kit, just not terribly long ago, a friend of mine's father passed away. And he was a man in life who had a place for everything and everything in its place, and was just very well organized and just down to the T, just ready to go with everything. And when he passed, his sons, my friend and his brother, found that nothing had been taken care of. For some reason, their dad, very shockingly, not just surprisingly to them, just hadn't kind of gotten things in order the way they would have expected, the way he was in life. And today, 5 years later, they're still swimming upstream trying to sort out his estate, take care of their mom, and fulfill his wishes as best they can, knowing him, because there was nothing anywhere that they could find. That might be an extreme case, but it just got me thinking how many of us, myself included, some of our staff that we've talked to, just haven't had these kinds of conversations. My parents retired last year. I have no idea what they want long term. I know they have a will. I don't know anything about that, and that's shame on me. But it's difficult to have these conversations. Is it? I mean, do you find that when you talk with families that sometimes some of these issues, as important as they are, maybe because they're that important, are hard to talk about?
They're very difficult issues for the person to talk about, because nobody wants to see their own mortality.
Yeah.
I'm not there yet. It's okay. I'll do it in the future. I've got time. I'm not sick, or one of those things you just put off. There's also a privacy factor. When it comes to finances and investments, people don't want to say, here's all my stuff.
Right. Right.
They want to feel that they still can take care of it, and they feel once they open that up, they're saying, I can't take care of it.
Right. Yeah.
And that is so hard to get to
even
do.
to your own son or daughter. And we know what families are like. There's very close relationships. There can be very, very difficult relationships when we're talking parents and kids. Mm-hmm. Everybody can tell a story. But that seems like it. And on the other side of it, we talk about that being the parents and you know, having those kinds of things of having to kind of let go in a way and let someone start to take care of me, whereas I've been the caregiver, the provider for so long. But for the children to have to come in and kind of broach that subject, we're talking about, I want to talk about a number of things here, kind of financial, insurance issues, long-term care. Does mom or dad want to at some point go to an assisted living if it becomes, you know, those kinds of things. But let's just kind of start with financial, because that's where a lot of it, I think, kind of starts. I have no idea how much money my folks have in the bank. I know that they seem to be living comfortable in retirement, but I have no clue. And I don't know that it is my business. What do you say to me? Yeah, you know, when I start, I worry about their money. I have because I don't know. I have no idea.
There's two issues. There's the financial side,
right,
of power of attorney, financial power of attorney, being aware of what policies your parents have, what accounts they have, what investments they have. That's a very important side. The healthcare side is entirely separate. I think it's easier to approach your parents initially on the healthcare side.
Okay.
Because it's less of an invasion of their privacy. So many people, they've spent their lifetime saving, putting away things, having different accounts. It's hard for them to give that up.
Right.
And it's personal, and especially with that generation.
Right.
That's my private business.
Right.
So,
and it is.
And it is. And you don't have to know whether they have $10 or $100. That's really not what's important when you approach this subject at all. I would suggest respecting that privacy. If they choose to share the amount of their finances with you, that's great. What's most important, though, isn't the amount, and I'd let them know that.
Right.
It's not that I need to know how much money you have.
Maybe.
I need to know where it is and what to do with it if something should happen,
Bingo.
and how I can access those things. Without a financial power of attorney, you don't have the access to it.
Okay.
And you need to have honor. Now, if your parent has a spouse, that person is probably going to be the one who's next will be their power of attorney, usually the spouse. Oftentimes, though, the parent will pick one of the children because it's too hard for the spouse to make living will type decisions in the medical area. It's really hard for a spouse of 60 years to say, withdraw life support.
Okay.
It's easier for the kids to say this is dad's wishes, and you know, and they give it to the kids because it's easier for them to carry it out.
Can I jump in for a sec?
Sure.
I understand that. I think we're going to do kind of a whole piece on living will.
Okay.
In talking with Kit prior to the show, and even here again just before the show today, it seems like that's something that's very, very important in the way you advise folks, is the notion of the living will. And I'm sure there's some who've never even heard that term before, so we'll get into that. But you say respect dad's wishes. Sometimes I can just see that as being a huge stumbling block. You say, especially if it's a do not resuscitate, or if they're on life support for some reason. But sometimes I think, does the argument become, maybe dad made his will 25 years ago and his wishes have changed, but the will hasn't been updated, or whether the living will, or you know what I'm saying? And is that where some of these kinds of either arguments or conflicts come from? In other words, how important is kind of keeping, you know, your final documents, if you will. I don't even know what to call them.
What you could say is
updated and current to the situation.
And
maybe
in
there's
all
a new wife.
Right. And in all honesty, every single one of us should have that. Every single one of us. It has nothing to do with age. So one of the best ways to approach your parents is to bring up the conversation that you were having it with someone else, and you realize you need one too, and you were wondering what do they have, when was the last time it was updated.
Okay.
Could you maybe work on it together, spend a weekend working on it together, and that you both do it, because financially and medically, everybody should have it. It's not. We don't know what's going to happen when we walk out the door.
Right, right. The two places to start. There's a lot more to talk about. We do need to take just a short break. Our guest again today, Kit Gritter with, I'm going to say Kachina Point. Can I say that?
You can.
As a shorthand. We'll give the full credentials a time or two yet in our remaining program. And again on Thursday, Kit will be joining us there as well. We'll take a short break. Countywide's back right after this.
Here in northern Arizona and throughout Yavapai County, people count on Orkin Pest Control. With over 100 years of combined experience, nobody knows how to protect your home or your business from harmful or annoying pests like the Orkin Man. To start service, contact your Northern Arizona Orkin Pest Control. In the Verde Valley, call 567-5100 or Orkin Pest Control in the Prescott area at 775-8772.
Clean kitchen surfaces, utensils, and hands with soapy water. 1 in 6 Americans will get sick from food poisoning this year. Keep your family safer. Check your steps at foodsafety.gov.
If you're looking for a new pet that your family will cherish every day, consider adopting from a shelter. Shelters are the best places to find a new pet. That's where you'll discover healthy, loyal, and loving animals, eager to become a part of your family. A person is the best thing to happen to a shelter pet, so bring home your new buddy today. To find out more, visit theshelterpetproject.org.
Hey, honey.
What's up, buddy?
Honey? I think he's been smoking pot.
Call 911. It's okay, Joey. I'm here. Can you hear me, son?
I'm right here.
Are you with
Is he
me?
breathing?
He's not responsive.
Hello?
Honey, give me a steak knife and a ballpoint pen.
What are you
now,
doing?
stop. I'm gonna do mouth to mouth.
No.
You know lots of ways to help your child, but do you know what to do if they're using drugs? The partnership at drugfree.org can help.
Welcome back to the program. It is Countywide. Our guest today is Kit Gritter with Kachina Point, Kindred Transitional Care and Rehab, Kachina Point in the village of Oak Creek. Their number is 284-2408. Is that the general number, or can I find you that way?
That is my number.
Okay, that's for Kit. If you have questions, and boy, you may, after today's show, a lot of important conversation here today and again on Thursday. So if you have a question, call Kit. And you've got, I know we're going to be doing a seminar, I think, coming up a little bit later here in the spring.
In April, we're going to do a seminar for the community.
Okay.
On living wills.
Okay.
And healthcare surrogate, power of attorney, mental health power of attorney, all of the things that you need medically. It will not be a financial seminar, but it will be a medical seminar.
Okay. Okay. So a lot of the things we're going to be talking about, you'll explore further at the seminar coming up. No date yet for this?
It will be in April, and I'll follow up with you so that you can announce it when it'll be in April.
And we'll get it out there. So there you go, another resource for you. But in the meantime, 284-2408. Yeah, we started just kind of that thing, kind of ice-breaking, if you will, with Mom and Dad about kind of getting this going. And, you know, how to kind of do those. You were going to, I think, share some ideas about just how to, you know, drift into this. You said maybe talk about the healthcare element more than the financial at first. It may be a little bit easier to go in that way.
Yes, I recommend that. And, you know, take it back a step, because as you and I were talking on the break, a lot of it is your own fear.
Oh, yeah.
How do I approach my mom and dad? They may be much more comfortable with it than you are, or your sister and the family members.
Right.
And I am a believer of no pink elephants on the table. Everything out in the open. Now, each family has its own relationships and their own patterns of doing things. And some families aren't out on the table. But this is an issue that really has to be the change in that. It has to be out on the table.
Right.
And it has to come from the heart. And I think if you meet resistance when you bring it up, I'm a believer in turn yourself around and be your parent. Stand from their point of view for a minute and see how they're feeling. See it from their eyes.
Right.
And help them see it from yours. That you're on their side. This isn't about getting their money or anything like that, or knowing their personal finances that they may not be ready to share yet.
Right.
It's about having the organization of having it all written down, where it is, where are the folders, and should each person have one, and having a designated spokesperson who will be able to stand for that person's wishes. What you're doing is you're offering your parent the most beautiful gift of their lifetime. I will act and speak for you, regardless of my own feelings. No matter how hard it is for me and how much I want to hold on, my best gift to you is I will speak for you and honor your wishes. And that's the message that needs to be conveyed.
Right.
That, you know what, I want to honor you for all you've done for me all my life. And all this family means, I want to be able to speak when you can't speak for you.
And it may be a process to get to that point. But I think that, like you say, if whatever it takes, at a certain point, most parents will understand that. Maybe they'll get it right off the bat. Maybe it'll take a time or two to sit down and kind of have that conversation.
I think share some stories.
Sure.
Share the stories like your friend who's 5 years later still in a legal battle and can't do anything. I don't think anyone who is saved and put things away and has all of these things wants it to not be accessed.
Sure. We were chatting, you mentioned just there about where are the folders, where's the documentation, what am I going to need to know? You mentioned it's probably important, say if there's 5 or 6 kids, maybe for all of them, to have access to that information. Maybe there should be one kind of executor or however that works. But is that right? Is it probably a good idea that each of the, sometimes in a family, say the oldest will be the one who takes care of those kinds of issues. And maybe that's what mom and dad want. But how important is it for even little sister down at the end of the 6-kid line to also have a good understanding of how things are going to work, isn't it?
Everybody needs an understanding. One person needs to be the spokesman. And it's not always the oldest. A lot of times it's the youngest because they've been around when the older ones were gone. They're the ones that are still living in the area. Assuming that all family members get along, or to basically, and that everybody's on the same page with the parents, and that they're, everyone's pretty much an intact family. Every family has its its wonders. They really are wonders.
Sure.
One person needs to be the spokesperson.
Why is that?
Usually for healthcare decisions, most important is the person who is living in the area or closest to the parent. Because you're the one that's going to be signing things. When you come into a facility like mine or into a hospital, you're the one that's going to be asked if your parent can't sign. If they've just had a stroke or a heart attack, or they've been in a car accident, or they've fallen and hit their head, and they are not able to sign, either the spouse or the appointed child who's in the area is going to be the one. Now, yes, we can fax things, we can do things over the telephone, but it's much, if somebody is in the area and they're able to be a spokesperson for the parent, that's a wonderful choice.
Right.
It really is, regardless of age or anything. It has nothing to do with that. It has to do with, I'm the one that's right here.
Sure.
I live in Arizona, everyone else lives in Florida or New York.
Well, let's talk about that. Actually, Kit, we got to take a break. Let's talk about that challenge, because we have so many wintertime visitors in our state that mom and dad are here for 6 months or what have you, and all the kids are back in the Midwest, say. And I know that can become another level of difficulty in these issues. So we'll chat a little bit about that, but another break first. It's Countywide. Kit Gritter, our guest today from Kachina Point. We'll be back right after this.
Here in northern Arizona and throughout Yavapai County, people count on Orkin Pest Control. With over 100 years of combined experience, nobody knows how to protect your home or your business from harmful or annoying pests like the Orkin Man. To start service, contact your Northern Arizona Orkin Pest Control. In the Verde Valley, call 567-5100 or Orkin Pest Control in the Prescott area at 775-8772.
Packers. Viking. Packers. Viking. Viking.
Red state. Blue state. Vegan.
Carnivore.
We come from different places.
Uptown.
Downtown.
Optimist.
We come to different conclusions.
Half empty.
Half full.
But when we live united, we create real, lasting change in the building blocks of life. The education, income, and health of our communities,
Live
our families,
united.
even the person next to us.
Live united.
Real change won't happen without you. So give, advocate, volunteer, live united. Sign up at liveunited.org.
Hungry?
The smallest moments can have the biggest impact on a child's life. Take time to be a dad today.
Having a fire escape plan is very important to keep your family safe and together in the event of a fire. When you awake to the sound of a smoke detector and smoke in your room, don't stand straight up. Carefully roll off your bed and stay low under the smoke. If your door is shut, feel the door with the back of your hand. Slowly open the door if no heat is felt. Always stay low until you get to the outside of your home. Always have 2 ways out of your house and a specified meeting place somewhere outside your home. Home escape plans should be drawn up and rehearsed on a regular basis. This could be the difference between life and death if caught in a fire.
Looking at two different.
We're back. We're chatting all the way through the break. A lot of conversation. Again, the second of our 2-part program with Kit will air on Thursday, so stick around for that one or come back for that one. Very good stuff, and again, we very much appreciate what you and Kachina Point are bringing to our table today. That issue of snowbirds, for lack of a better term, our wintertime visitors. A lot of folks come out here in their retirement years and spend some time in Arizona, and maybe have a home somewhere else, or maybe don't, but the kids are somewhere else. Mm-hmm. That can complicate these issues a bit, huh?
It can, but it doesn't have to.
Right.
There is a way around that. I suggest that if you're traveling and as a snowbird, always have a copy of your paperwork with you for your, if you're going to be away for an extended period of time, and the other person who should have one should be your power of attorney. Now, in speaking of power of attorney and healthcare power of attorney, they're 2 separate things. And you can have 2 separate children, or your spouse and one of your children. You don't have to have the same person for both. Okay. And that's very important to know. I know in my situation, personally, for my mom, I was her healthcare power of attorney, and I lived in Florida, and she was still in New York. My sister was her financial power of attorney because she was there to manage the finances.
Okay.
Personally, neither one of us could take on both aspects and run our own families and jobs, so we split it, and my mom had split it between the 2 of us. We both were a backup if the other one wasn't able to speak or take on the job.
Right.
You know, you always have a backup. There's always a secondary person.
Right.
But it worked out so much better to have both of us. And even though I was in Florida, my mom was in New York, I was still, because coming from the medical background,
that makes
the healthcare power of attorney.
Yeah.
And that was a wonderful thing. Carry it for people who are snowbirds, especially if you own a place here and you come back to the same place every year, which so many people do in this area.
Right.
Keep a copy here in your files that you have here.
Sure.
And have a copy with your surrogate, your power of attorney, and have a copy in your main area.
So that you're prepared.
And that way you are prepared.
Okay. Kit, we appreciate it. We're wrapping up again. This is a 2-part piece. This is part 1 as we conclude. Join us again Thursday. We'll talk much more, some great information. Kit Gritter, 284-2408, Kindred Transitional Care and Rehab, best known perhaps as Kachina Point in the village of Oak Creek. We thank you for joining us. It's Countywide. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.
This has been Countywide, a special presentation of Yavapai Broadcasting News. Listen in each Tuesday and Thursday as we tackle the hot topics and talk to the decision makers across Yavapai County. That's Countywide with Brad Miller and Paul David each Tuesday and Thursday on this Yavapai Broadcasting station.